Lesson 1.10, use place value to subtract. Estimate, then find the difference. So we're going to underline estimate. We know when we estimate, we find a number close to the answer. And the difference, whenever we see the word difference, we know it means to subtract. So I put a subtraction sign and I circled it. Number one, we have 585 minus 119. First step is we estimate. So let's round 585 and 119. 585, if we round to the nearest hundred, would be between 500 and 600, but it would be closer to 600. 119 is between 100 and 200, but it is closer to 100. So we round it to 100. Now we subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. 6 minus 1 is 5. So our estimate is 500. Now, to begin the problem, we start in the ones place to subtract. 5 minus 9, we can't do 5 minus 9, so we would have to borrow from the tens place. We cross out this 8, it becomes a 7. Now we put that 1 that we took away from the 8 and we put it in front of the 5. The 5 becomes a 15. Now this is no longer a 5, but it is a 15. 15 minus 9, we get. Now we go to the tens place. It's no longer 8 minus 1. It is 7 minus 1. 7 minus 1 is 6. And in the hundreds place, 5 minus 1 is 4. So our exact answer is 466, but our estimate was 500. Number 2. First step, we estimate, then we find the difference. So let's begin by rounding 738 and 227. 738 is between 700 and 800, but it will be closer to 700. Now 227. 227 is between 200 and 300, but it is closer to 200. We subtract. Start with the ones place. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. 7 minus 2 is 5. Our estimate is 500, so our answer should not be far from 500. So when we solve the actual problem, we start with the ones place. 8 minus 7 is 1. 3 minus 2 is 1. 7 minus 2 is 5. So 511. Number 3, 651 minus 376. First thing we do is estimate. So let's begin by rounding the numbers. So let's round these two to the hundreds place. So 650 is between 600 and 700, but it is closer to 700. 376 is between 300 and 400, but it is closer to 400. So let's solve. Start with the ones place. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0, 0. 7 minus 4 is 3. So our estimate is 300. So now let's solve to find the actual answer. So we have 651 minus 376. We know our answer is going to be close to 300. So let's start with the ones place. 1 minus 6, we cannot do that. We have to borrow from the tens place. We borrow from the 5. We take 1 away from the 5. It becomes a 4. And this 1 becomes an 11. Now 11 minus 6 is 5. Now we go to the tens place. It's no longer 5 minus 7. It is now 4 minus 7. 4 minus 7, we can't do that. So this 4 has to borrow from the hundreds place. We borrow from the 6. it becomes a 5, and this 4 becomes a 14. Now we can subtract 14 minus 7. 14 minus 7 is 7. Now, in the hundreds place, it's no longer 6 minus 3, it is 5 minus 3. 5 minus 3 is 2. So our answer is, the difference is 275. And we know the word difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. Number 4. First we estimate, then we round. So we have 815. If we round it to the nearest hundred, it would be between 800 and 900. But 815 is closer to 800. So 281 is between 200 and 300, but it is closer to 300. So we subtract. We start with a ones place. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. And 8 minus 3 is 5. So our estimate is 500. Now let's find the actual answer. So we start with the ones place. 5 minus 1 is 4. Then the tens place, 1 minus 8, we can't do that. So we have to borrow from the hundreds. We borrow from the hundreds. We take 1 away from the 8. It becomes a 7. Now this 1 becomes in 11. 11 minus 8 is 3. Now we're in the hundreds place. It's no longer 8 minus 2. It is 7 minus 2. 7 minus 2 is 5. Our answer or difference is 534. Number 5. First we estimate, then we find the difference. We have 627. It is between 6. Let's For the bottom row, let's round to the nearest tens. Since the top 4, we rounded to the nearest hundred. Let's round to the nearest tens for 5 through 8. So number 627, the two tens it's in between is 620 and 630, but it is closer to 630. 253 is between 250 and 260, but it is closer to 250. So 0 minus 0 is 0. 3 minus 5, we can't do that. So we have to borrow from the hundreds place. We take 1 away from this 6, it becomes a 5. And the 1 that we took away, we put in front of the 3. Now the 3 is a 13. Now 13 minus 5, we can do that. 13 minus 5 is 8. Now we go to the hundreds. It's no longer 6 minus 2. It is 5 minus 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. So our estimate is 380. So our answer should be close to 380. So now let's solve the problem and see if we get an answer close to our estimate. 7 minus 3 is 4. 2 minus 5, we can't do that. So we'll have to borrow from the hundreds place. We borrow 1 from the 6. It becomes a 5. Now this 2 we can become a 12. Now 12 minus 5 is 7. Now we go to the hundreds place. It's no longer 6 minus 2. It is 5 minus 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. So our answer is close to our estimate. Number 6. First we estimate, then we round to the nearest 10 to find the difference. So we have 862. It is between 860 and 870. but it is closer to 860. 419, we're going to round to the nearest 10. 419 is between 410 and 420, but it is closer to 420. We start subtracting from the ones place. 0 minus 0 is 0. We subtract from the tens place. 6 minus 2 is 4. And we subtract from the hundreds place. 8 minus 4 is 4. So our estimate is 440. So our answer should be close to 440. So let's solve. 2 minus 9, we start with the ones. 2 minus 9, we can't do that. So this 2 has to borrow 1 from the 6. The 6 becomes a 5. And the 2 now becomes a 12 because it borrowed the 1 of the tens. So now it's 12 minus 9. 12 minus 9 is 3. Now we subtract the tens place. It's no longer 6 minus 1. It is 5 minus 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. In the hundreds place, 8 minus 4 is 4. Our exact answer is 443. Our estimate was 440. Number 7. First we estimate, then we find a difference. 726, since we're rounding to the nearest tens, 726 is between 720 and 730. But it is closer to 730. 148, we're rounding to the nearest tens, is between 140 and 150. But it is closer to 150. Now we subtract from the ones. 0 minus 0 is 0. The tens, 3 minus 5, we can't do that. So this 3 has to borrow 1 from the 7. We take away 1 from the 7, it becomes a 6. This 3 now becomes a 13. Now we can do 13 minus 5. 13 minus 5 is 8. And now we subtract from the hundreds. It's no longer 7 minus 1, it is 6 minus 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. So our estimate is 580. Now let's solve to find the exact answer. 6 minus 8, we can't do that. So now this 6 has to borrow from the tens. This 2 become a 1. And this 6 becomes a 16. 16 minus 8 equals 8. Now we subtract from the tens place. It's no longer 2 minus 4. It is 1 minus 4. And we can't do that. So we have to borrow from the hundreds. We borrow from the neighbor, which is the hundreds. And we ask for 1. So we take away 1 from the 7. It becomes a 6. And this 1 becomes an 11. Now 11 minus 4 is 7. Now we go to the hundreds. It's no longer 7 minus 1. It is 6 minus 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. So our exact answer is 578. Our estimate was 580. Number 8. We're going to estimate, then we're going to find a difference. So we have 543 minus 358. 543 is between, rounding to the nearest tens, is between 540 and 550, but it is closer to 540. 358 is between 350 and 360, but it is closer to 360. Now let's subtract from the ones place. 0 minus 0 is 0. 4 minus 6, we can't do that. So we have to borrow from the 5. We take 1 away from the 5, it becomes a 4. Now this 4 can become a 14. Now 14 minus 6 is 8. Now in the hundreds place, it's no longer 5 minus 3. It is 4 minus 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. Our estimate is 180. Now let's solve the actual problem for the exact answer. 3 minus 8, we can't do that. We have to borrow. We borrow 1 from the 4, it becomes a 3. Now this 3 can become a 13. 13 minus 8 is 5. Now, the tens place is no longer 4 minus 5, it is 3 minus 5. And we can't do 3 minus 5, so this 3 has to borrow from the 5. Now this 5 becomes a 4, and this 3 becomes a 13. 13 minus 5 equals 8. Now, in the hundreds place, 5 is no longer 5 minus 3, it is 4 minus 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. So our estimate was 180 and our answer is 185. Number 9. Mr. Cohen has 427 buttons. She uses 195 buttons to make puppets. How many buttons does Mrs. Cohen have left? So Mrs. Cohen, we're going to circle the important numbers and keywords. So Mrs. Cohen has 427 buttons. She uses 195. And I'm going to circle uses because if she's using them, she has less now. So that means we're going to be subtracting. So uses is a keyword that tells us we're going to subtract. Now we always underline our question because it tells us what we need to find. How many buttons does Mrs. Cohen have left? So let's see. 427. And she used 195. And since she used 195, we know that means we're subtracting. And also the word left in our question means to subtract. So I'm going to put another subtraction sign. How many buttons does Mrs. Cohen have left? So we have 427 and she used 195. So let's subtract to find out how many buttons Mrs. Cohen has left. So 7 minus 5, 2. We start with a ones place. In the tens place, 2 minus 9. We can't do that. So we have to borrow from the 4. The 4 becomes a 3. And this 2 becomes a 12. Now 12 minus 9 is 3. Now in the hundreds place, it's no longer 4 minus 1. It is 3 minus 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. So how many buttons does she have left? 232 buttons left. Number 10. There were 625 ears of corn and 247 tomatoes sold at a farm stand. How many more ears of corn were sold than tomatoes? So let's circle to find our keywords and important numbers. There were 625 ears of corn and 247 tomatoes sold at a farm stand. How many more ears of corn were sold than tomatoes? Now, the word how many more, whenever we see this phrase, how many more, we know it means to subtract. So we're going to be subtracting. So we have to find out how many more ears of corn were sold than tomatoes. So there were 625 ears of corn and 247 tomatoes. So let's do the math and find out how many more were sold. So we always put the bigger number at the top. So 625 minus 247, 5 minus 7, we can't do that. So we have to borrow from the tens place. This 2 becomes a 1, and this 5 becomes a 15. So now it's 15 minus 7. 15 minus 7 is 8. And The tens place is no longer 2 minus 4, it is 1 minus 4. And we can't do 1 minus 4, so we have to borrow from this 6. We take 1 away from the 6, it becomes a 5. And this 1 becomes an 11. Now 11 minus 4 equals 7. Now the hundreds place is no longer 6 minus 2, it is 5 minus 2. 5 minus 2 equals 3. Number 11. Explain how to subtract 247 from 538. So to solve 247 from 538, we line the numbers up. So we have 538, and we put a small number at the bottom, 247. So now we start solving from the ones place. So we start from the ones place. So 8 minus 7 is 1. 3 minus 4, we can't do that. So we have to borrow from our neighbor. The 3 borrows from the 5. It takes 1 away from the 5. So now the 5 has 4. And now this 3 can become a 13 because the 1 you took away, you put in front of the 3, it becomes a 13. Now 13 minus 4 is 9. Now 5 minus 2 is no longer 5 minus 2, it is 4 minus 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. So 291. Okay, so the steps we did was start subtracting from the ones place. From the ones place. Then tens. And then the hundreds. Number 1. On Saturday, 453 people go to a school play. On Sunday, 294 people go to the play. How many more people go to the play on Saturday? So let's begin by circling our important numbers. We have 453 people that go to the school play on Saturday. On Sunday, it was 294 people that went to the play. And our keyword, how many more? That phrase lets us know we will be subtracting. So I put a subtraction sign next to the word, and we keep underlining the rest of the question because it tells us what we need to find. How many more people go to the play on Saturday? So we know we're subtracting, so let's line the numbers up. So it's going to be 453 minus 294. We start with the ones place. 3 minus 4. 3 minus 4, we can't do that, so we have to borrow from the tens place. This 5 becomes a 4, and this 3 becomes a 13. So 13 minus 4 is 9. So now let's move to the tens place. It's no longer 5 minus 9, it is 4 minus 9. And we can't do 4 minus 9, so this 4 has to borrow from its neighbor, and take 1 away. So this 4 now becomes a 3, and this 4 becomes a 14. 14 minus 9, we can do that. That is 5. Now we move to the hundreds place. It's no longer 4 minus 2. It is 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. So how many people go to the play on Saturday? 159 more people. Number 2. Corey has 510 marbles. He fills one jar with 165 marbles. How many of Corey's marbles are not in the jar? So we'll circle our important numbers. It was 510 marbles. He fills one jar with 165 marbles. How many of Corey's marbles are not in the jar? So let's subtract to find out. So we have 510 minus 165. So let's begin by subtracting from the ones place. We have 0 minus 5, and we can't do 0 minus 5. So now we have to borrow. We borrow from this 1. We borrow from the tens place. 1, we take away the 1. Now this becomes a 0. And now this 0 becomes a 10. Now 10 minus 5 is 5. Now in the tens place, it's no longer 1 minus 6. It is 0 minus 6. And we can't do 0 minus 6. So this 0 has to borrow from its neighbor. It borrows from the 5. It takes 1 away from the 5. The 5 becomes a 4. Now this 0 can become a 10. Now 10 minus 6, we can do that. 10 minus 6 is 4. Now 5 minus 1 is we subtract the hundreds place. 5 minus 1, it's no longer 5 minus 1. It's no longer 5 minus 1. It becomes 4 minus 1 because we borrowed from the 5. 4 minus 1 is 3. Now, how many marbles were not in the jar? 345 marbles. Number 3. Patty bought 64 peppers to sell at the farmer's market. There were 12 peppers left at the end of the day. How many peppers did Patty sell? So she brought 64 peppers, our important number, and there were 12 peppers left. Now our question says, how many peppers did Patty sell? So to find that out, and we see also our keyword left. That's going to let us know to subtract. So I put my subtraction sign next to the word left, the amount left over. So let's begin subtracting. We start with the bigger number, 64 minus 12. So we start with the ones place. 4 minus 2 is 2. 6 minus 1 is 5. So how many peppers did Patty sell? 52 peppers. Number 4. An airplane flies 617 miles in the morning. Then it flies 385 miles in the afternoon. About how many more miles does the airplane fly in the morning? So let's circle our important numbers. 617, 385. About how many more? So we're going to we're going to underline a question because it tells us what we need to find. And about how many more tells us we need to subtract And the word about tells us we're looking for something close to the answer. So we're going to be estimating. So if we're estimating, let's round 617, and we can round to the nearest tens or 100. Let's round to the nearest. Let's round to the nearest hundreds. 617, if we round this to the next hundred, it will be between 600 and 700, but it'll be closer to 600. 385 would be between 300 and 400, but it is closer to 400. So now we start subtracting from the ones place. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 in the tens place, 0. 6 minus 4 in the hundreds place, 2. So our answer is about 200. They asked us to estimate because we see the word about how many more. So they're not looking for an exact answer. So here's our answer, about 200. Number 5. What is the unknown number? We have blank plus 4 in parentheses plus 59 equals 70. So how do we find the blank? So first, let's add 4 plus 59. 4 plus 59. 4 plus 59. 4 plus 69, 59 will equal 63. So that means to get the blank, we would subtract 63 from 70. So 70 minus 63 will give us the answer to the blank. So let's see, 70 minus 63, 0, we start with a ones place, 0 minus 3, we can't do that. We have to borrow from the 10. We borrow 1, this 7 becomes a 6, and this 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. So what is the unknown number? The unknown number is 7. So how can we check if our answer is correct? We can add 7 right here. So 7 plus 4 is 11. So we solve 7 plus 4. We know this equals 11 and plus 59. So let's see if 11 plus 59 equals 70. So we have 11 plus 59. 1 plus 9 equals 10. Carry our 1. And 1 plus 1 equals 2. And 2 plus 5 equals 70. So our answer is correct because they equal this 70 right here. Now, when I added 11 plus 59, I put the smaller number on top. When we're adding, we can have the smaller number on top or the bigger number at the top. The order doesn't matter when we're adding. But if we were subtracting, the bigger number always goes at the top when we are subtracting. Number 6, Dexter has 128 shells. He needs 283 more shells for his art project. How many shells will Dexter use for his art project? So let's circle our important numbers. 128 shells. He needs 283 more. Now our question says, how many shells will Dexter use for his art project? So this keyword right here, how many, tells us to add. So we're going to add the two important numbers. So we're going to add 128 and 283. And we can put a small number at the top because we are adding. So 8 plus 3 is 11. We carry our 1. 1 plus 3, 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 8 is 11. We carry our 1 over to the hundreds place. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. So 400 and, I'm sorry, 400 shells. 411 shells.